The sound of laughter echoed through the narrow alleyways of the village as children chased each other with sticks and pebbles. Among them stood Hannah, a girl of only 16, her body larger than most, her cheeks round, her step heavy yet graceful in its own way. She had grown used to the stares, the whispers, and the mocking smiles. To many in the village, her weight was something worth pointing at. They rarely saw the kindness in her eyes or the way she always offered to help her mother with endless chores. Hannah's father was a stern man. Thomas Middleton had never been known for his gentleness. A blacksmith by trade, his arms were thick with muscle and his hands scarred from years of hammering iron, but his temper was sharper than any blade he ever forged. He believed that discipline was the answer to every problem, and when it came to his daughter, he thought she needed discipline more than anyone. "Look at you," he scolded one morning as she carried water from the well. "You eat more than 3 children and still move like a cow in mud. What man would ever take you? What future will you have if all you do is eat and stumble?" The words cut deep. Hannah lowered her gaze, the heavy bucket pressing into her palms. She wanted to say she ate no more than anyone else, that her body was simply her body, but in her father's house, silence was safer. The Middletons were not a wealthy family. Work was scarce, and Thomas often returned home angry, blaming everyone around him for his misfortune. When his debts grew heavier and his pride thinner, he searched for a way to rid himself of what he saw as a burden. That burden, in his eyes, was Hannah. So when the village elder announced that the farmer outside of town needed help on his land, Thomas saw an opportunity. The farmer, Mr. William Carter, was a man the village regarded with pity. His clothes were plain, his home nothing but a weathered wooden cabin on the edge of sprawling fields. People believed he had little more than soil and sweat to his name. Rumors swirled that he lived alone because no one wanted to marry into poverty. Thomas decided that his daughter would go to Carter as punishment. "She will learn what it means to work, to sweat, to earn her bread instead of devouring mine," he muttered one evening over the crackle of the fire. Hannah's mother, Margaret, timid and weary, dared to protest. "She is only a child. What kind of father sends his daughter away as though she were some unwanted tool?" But Thomas silenced her with a glare. His word was final. The very next morning, Hannah was handed a small bundle of clothes and a crust of bread. Thomas dragged her by the wrist through the village while curious eyes followed. Some pitied the girl, others smirked at the sight of her being punished for what they thought was laziness. The gossip spread fast. "The fat girl is being sent to Carter's farm." Hannah's heart thudded in her chest. She wanted to cry, but pride kept her chin high. If she shed tears, the village children would laugh even harder. When they reached the edge of the village, Thomas released her wrist and gestured to the path leading into the hills. "There he is," he said, pointing to a tall figure standing by the gate of a worn fence. William Carter was not what Hannah expected. His back was broad, his hair dark with streaks of silver, though he could not have been more than 40. His eyes were calm, watching Thomas with quiet understanding, as though he had seen men like him many times before. "This is my daughter," Thomas announced. "She has no discipline. Let her work your fields. Feed her if you wish, or starve her if you must. Perhaps she will learn something." William's brows drew together. "She is a child, not a servant." Thomas spat. "On the ground. Do what you want with her. She is yours now." And with that, Thomas turned on his heel and walked away, leaving Hannah clutching her bundle, her world spinning. For a long moment, silence hung in the air. William studied the girl, noticing the trembling in her hands, the way she avoided his eyes, the weight of shame pressed upon her shoulders. "You are Hannah," he said finally, his voice steady but not unkind. She nodded. "Do you know why your father brought you here?" Her lips parted, but no words came. She only lowered her gaze. William sighed and pushed open the gate. "Come inside. You will not sleep in the dirt like an animal. Whatever reason he sent you here, you are a human being first. And on my farm, every human being deserves respect." The words startled Hannah. She had expected scorn, another master ready to laugh at her body or mock her presence. But instead, William's tone carried something she had not heard in a long time: dignity. She stepped inside the gate, her heart pounding with uncertainty. The farm stretched wide before her. Rows of wheat shimmered gold under the morning sun. Cows grazed lazily near the barn. The land seemed endless compared to the cramped village she had always known. For the first time in her life, Hannah felt a flicker of curiosity rather than shame. William led her to the cabin. Inside, it was simple yet tidy, with shelves lined with jars of preserved fruit, loaves of bread cooling on the table, and a fire humming in the hearth. "You will work here, yes," William said. "But not as punishment. You will learn. And perhaps, in time, you will see that strength is not measured only by how one looks." Hannah swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. That night, as she lay on a small cot near the fire, her mind swirled with questions. Why was this man different? Why did he not mock her? And why did he speak as though he held secrets about the farm that no one else in the village knew? The moonlight spilled through the cracks in the wooden walls, and Hannah closed her eyes, unaware that her life had just changed forever. She had been sent here as punishment, yet destiny was waiting among the fields, carrying lessons her father could never teach and truths her heart had longed for since childhood. She did not yet know that William Carter was not poor at all. The land beneath his feet stretched farther than the villagers ever imagined. Hidden in the folds of those hills were treasures of harvest and livestock counted in the thousands. She had been given away in shame, but she would discover pride, friendship, and perhaps even love on this very farm. And so began Hannah's new life, born not from cruelty, but from the quiet mercy of a farmer who saw more than the world dared to see. The first days on William Carter's farm were unlike anything Hannah had ever known. Her mornings began with the crow of a rooster, her hands plunged into cool water as she washed vegetables or filled pails for the animals. Her body ached in places she never thought possible, but strangely, she did not complain. For the first time in her life, her work felt meaningful. William was a man of few words, but he was not unkind. When he spoke, it was with purpose. He showed her how to milk the cows, how to tie bundles of wheat, how to mend a fence without wasting rope. Unlike her father, he never shouted. If she made a mistake, he corrected her gently. One evening, as they carried baskets of freshly picked apples into the cabin, William glanced at her. "You are stronger than you think, Hannah. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise." The words warmed her chest in a way she could not explain. She smiled shyly, her cheeks pink in the glow of the lantern. Still, there were mysteries she could not ignore. The villagers always spoke of William as a poor man, yet his shelves never emptied. The barn was always full, the pantry stocked, the animals well fed. And whenever merchants visited the farm, they treated him with unusual respect, bowing their heads and speaking to him with deference. One day, curiosity got the better of her. As she helped stack hay in the barn, she asked, "Why do people in the village say you are poor, when you clearly are not?" William paused, his eyes narrowing slightly. For a moment, she worried she had offended him. But then he set down his pitchfork and leaned against the barn wall. "Because they only see what they wish to see," he replied. "When I was younger, I learned that wealth invites envy, and envy invites cruelty. So I let them believe I am poor. It gives me peace. But you are not poor at all," Hannah whispered. He smiled faintly. "No, child, this land feeds more mouths than you could imagine. The cattle you see are but a fraction of the herds in the hills. The merchants who come here pay me in gold and silver for grain and livestock. But I have no need to boast of it. Let the village laugh at my cabin, so long as my farm thrives." Hannah's eyes widened. She had been sent here as punishment, yet she was standing on a fortune hidden in plain sight. Her heart raced with excitement. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because," William said, "you are not like the others. You know what it means to be scorned, to be underestimated. I trust you will not use my truth against me." Hannah nodded, her chest swelling with pride. For the first time, someone trusted her with a secret of great importance. Days turned into weeks, and Hannah grew stronger. The girl who once carried buckets with trembling hands could now lift them without spilling a drop. She laughed more often, her voice ringing across the fields. And when the villagers passed by the farm, they no longer sneered. They watched with surprise as the once punished girl stood tall beside the farmer, her hair tied back, her face glowing with confidence. But Thomas Middleton, her father, had not forgotten her. One late afternoon, he arrived at the farm, his face twisted with bitterness. "Carter," he barked, "I have come for my daughter. I will not have her living under another man's roof." William stepped forward calmly. "She is safe here, more than she ever was under your hand." Thomas's eyes narrowed. "You dare insult me? You think you can take what is mine?" Hannah stepped out from the barn, her heart pounding. For the first time, she did not cower before her father. "I am not a thing to be given or taken, father. I am a person, and I will stay where I am respected." Her voice trembled, but her spirit did not. Thomas's face turned red with fury. "Ungrateful girl, You shame your family." Before he could raise his hand, William moved between them. His presence was steady, unshakable. "Enough. You will not strike her again." Thomas froze. He looked at William as though realizing, perhaps for the first time, that this, poor farmer, was not a man to be trifled with. William's eyes were cold now, his patience thinning. "You left her here as punishment, Thomas. But in doing so, you gave her a gift, freedom. She owes you nothing." Thomas glanced around at the fields, the cattle, the wealth hidden in plain sight. His eyes glimmered with greed. "So it is true," he hissed. "You are not poor at all." William did not deny it. "And it is because of that truth that I warn you, leave now, and do not return. If you care nothing for your daughter, at least care for your pride." For the first time in her life, Hannah saw her father falter. He muttered curses under his breath, but his steps carried him back down the road, his shadow shrinking in the fading light. Hannah's knees nearly gave way, but William placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "You are safe," he said. "You are no longer his to command." Tears welled in her eyes, not from sorrow, but from relief. For the first time, she felt free. In the months that followed, Hannah blossomed. She learned to read the sky for signs of rain, to plant seeds that would flourish in the soil, to trade wisely with merchants. William treated her not as a servant, but as a partner. And when the villagers saw the change in her, many were ashamed of their past cruelty. Some even came to her for advice, humbled by her strength. Years passed, and Hannah became known not as the obese girl, but as the woman who turned punishment into triumph. She managed fields, cared for animals, and grew into a leader respected by all who knew her. And when William grew older, he placed the farm in her hands, trusting her to carry forward the legacy he had built. One quiet evening, as Hannah stood on the hill overlooking thousands of acres bathed in golden light, she whispered to herself, "I was sent here in shame, but I found my purpose. What was meant to break me became the making of me." And with that truth, she smiled. Her story was no longer one of punishment, but of strength, dignity, and the quiet power of a girl who became more than anyone ever believed she could be.